Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Camera Tuesday, we're going to talk about 70-200 F2.8 DGDNOS from Sigma. So let's dive deep into it. I have no idea who came up with the name. So this is 70-200 F2.8, which is one of the most desired Holy Trinity lens. There are three lenses in Holy Trinity. One is ultra wide complete F2.8 zoom lens. Then you have basically 24 to 70 mm F2.8, and then you have this puppy 70-200 F2.8. Now ideally is that in most scenarios, barring any telephoto specific requirements, if you have quality Trinity lenses, all three of them, you should not need any other lens, and generally they do hold it true, specifically this puppy. Now this puppy is very desirable for portraiture work, because you may think, hey, what about I get close to it and I take a very, like, let's say 24 mm or 30-50 mm kind of scenario. Here's the deal, that's not going to give you a very appealing portraiture. It's not that you can't get good photos, it's just like it will feel a bit overture. It's like the photos will like woo. You want that, like that flatness that requires that high mm, so you can flatten it out. And if you have a character background is very far away, then you use 200 mm. Ooh, the quality would be like damn. That's why these lenses are so desirable. They are really good, and given the fact that it has zoom, so you can adjust things from 70 to 200. You have lot of coverage here, so you can really get half body, full body, or zoom into like just the face, so you can get some serious work done. So it's desirable, and it has a range. That's the interesting part. From 70 to 200, it's enough range that if you are covering any weddings, let's say, you do not have to be on their face. You can be like, hey, me good, me far away, me good. So that's also desirable. Now this lens has been under consideration for surprisingly long, given the fact that Tamron has already released it. If I'm not mistaken, Tamron has released a Mark II. Sony has released it and released Mark II of it. And Canon, we cannot talk about it given the fact that they have banned third-party lenses on their RF mount. This puppy should have been released years ago, but they just released it now. Be mindful, there is a variant of this that is released for Nikon and Canon, but DSLR mount, not for mirrorless. So this is a very new, delayed but new. And they were saying like they were working at a chip away at it. So this is launched for E mount or L mount. Now L mount alliance is Panasonic, Sigma, and I always forget Leica. These three brands are in bed together. So if you have any of from that three brand, you can directly buy this, or you most likely you're gonna buy it for Sony E mount. Now price is $1,500. Now that translates to roughly, let that be very clear, it's not launched yet, so I cannot be damn sure about the price. It's 1,30,000 rupees. Now if you are like, hey, 1,500 sounds much, I would really urge you to watch the same lens in any of the first party lens, Nikon, Sony, Canon. Go. I dare you. This will look free afterwards. So that's why this is a very desirable lens. And given the fact that my lens that I bought, like that is being used here, that is 18 to 55 f2.8 for APS-C. Yeah, this is not that much. Exponentially, not that much. So it's a good price. And in terms of costing, it's a little bit more than Tamron, but half compared to Sony. So it's $1,300 less compared to Sony G Master 2. Now G Master 2 is genuinely top quality lens, but is it twice as better than this? No. So that's why, like, this is a good thing. They took their time, but what they have delivered has some genuine potential. Here you can see them with Sigma lens, Sigma camera. Yes, they have cameras, and this is with Sony camera. So it's a good, unique, delayed, but they finally reached it kind of lens. Now, what are the features of this puppy? They went a bit extreme with the lens. Basically, they have 20 elements. You can see that, like they put some lens into it. Now, lens has a very balancing act requirement. For example, if you really want top quality, the best of the best lens, you got to put a lot of them. Like you could say 25, 30, 40, those sort of things. But here's the deal. The more glass you put, the worse light quality becomes, because again, these things are not 100% transparent. They do degrade the light. So you could literally, even though you have aperture of f2.8, your t-stop could become like, t4 if you have too many lenses. That's the first thing. Second, it becomes also blurry. The more glass light has to go through, it becomes blurrier. So there is always a balance. This gives, the more lens you have, the more control you over light you have, but lower quality and heavier. So you always have to balance. Engineers have to sit down and calculate what do they need. Like cinema lens, they will be like, hey, we cannot give you too much. So that's why majority of cinema lenses are just freaking prime. So they may be like, hey, we need the topmost quality. We are projecting this puppy in 200-inch screen. Yeah, we need quality. Yeet, they're gonna swap lenses. So, and that's why those lenses are so freaking huge, even though the rating and the f-stop rating is more or less the same. So you have to know that 20 elements is significant. It's not lightweight. It's like somebody is like, okay, let's just go YOLO. And it has 11 bladed aperture, which again, nothing exaggerated, but it's good. That means under a normal circumstance, you should not see the hexagonal pattern or octagonal pattern that people see if you have low bladed aperture. 11 blade, they could have gone a bit more, but not bad. Let's just put it that way. Now, close focusing distance, meaning how close to basically lens to your subject can be, that is 65 centimeter, that's around this much for when you are in 70 mm, and 100 centimeter, around 1 meter, bit more to around telephoto 200 mm. This part is bit underwhelming, let that be very clear. This is bit underwhelming. The other 70 to 200, which is E-mount only, but they do have a bit more depth to it, meaning you can get much more zoomed in. This is a bit underwhelming in that regard. Now, it does have weird lens hood, because I have no idea who came up with the idea. It's like, what if we go back to 1980s design where we used to have screws for things? Why? No, it's like, wait. It's like, what? That's genuinely weird. And they have a good tripod shoe, which again, I am like, at least somebody thought of it. And tripod shoe in this design does not feel like a afterthought. The rotating, the indentation, everything, except the fact that they did not thought of like, what if you have to remove it? If it's like, if you are not using that tripod on monopods, tripod shoe on monopods are awesome combination. If you're not using it, it becomes a hassle. They did not make it easy to remove. So it's like weird. But again, keep the cost in consideration. So, and be mindful, cost also requires the R&D cost. So you can design a very low cost lens, a very well refined lens, but here's the deal, the R&D would be like, instead of taking 2-3 years, it could take 8 to 9 years. So you have to pay for them. So I think these are the corner cuttings. I think they're focused on the lens and they're like, yeah, just put whatever we have. So that's there. 77mm front filter, which is good, which is genuine. This is more or less the same what you're getting. So that means you're going to get a lot of ND filters and a lot of polarizers without too much hassle. That's good. And you do have a lot of customizable buttons, and it does support teleconverters, not the Sony one. Sony one you can physically connect them, but it will disable the electrical functions. But it does support them in L mount, specifically 1.4x and 2x. Sony has artificially disabled it. It's not physically being disabled, it's artificially being disabled. Now, I'm not joking. Okay, I'm not joking. They literally say this mechanism, autofocus mechanism, it's a hypersonic motor autofocus. Not joking, this is on their website, you can check it up. These things are called hypersonic motors. What the heck? It might as well say hypersonic missile, but it is what it is. Like, the two of them are floating, which is a good thing to do. Are they quiet? Much quiet compared to my Sigma, but do not expect them to be dead silent as Sony can be. It's good, but not great. So you will not have issue if you have a microphone on there, but you will be like, I wish it was a little, especially in quiet scenes. But it's I like the name hypersonic motor. So the autofocus speed is good, meaning your camera will be able to be like, I got this. So this is the feature set of this puppy. Now, what about the performance? Here's the deal. It's half the price, almost double the weight. Not double, but you will get what I'm talking about. But it can perform. There is no scenario, there is no review where people are like, dude, it's not performing. It's like flat out, this puppy can perform. It's a big puppy, but it can perform. Now, focus ring and zoom ring are inverted, which is one of the most weirdest thing, but I genuinely hope it was the like requirement for the fact that it has no focus breathing. I think the engineer must have sat down and is like, hey, we can give the zoom ring here and it will solve all your focus breathing problem, or we put it backwards or put 2 more glass elements just to compensate for it. So I think it was a conscious decision from engineering point of view, but it does cause hassle for you. Because if majority of your lenses are like, hey, the thing that is close to me, that is the zoom, you will try to do that here again, time and time again, and you will be confused. So that's a minor to major inconvenience depending how much lens you use. If you are going from prime, not an issue, but you're going from other zoom lenses, that will be frustrating. So that is what it is, and it does not have very good close focusing. So the magnification factor is not huge, meaning in case of India we have wedding, so you will be very comfortable distance from bride and grooms and all that, but many times we also photograph rings. For that you may find this lens to be like underwhelming. Not bad, it will be good, and heck, if you have high resolution camera body you can even crop in and get decent result, but it won't be like I wished for G Master 2 unless you know your price. At that point you're like, I get it. So that would be the magnification factor is a bit like could be better, but not bad. It will like could be better. No focus breathing, which is shocking, and here's the interesting part for that. The reason it needs to be absolutely dead is simply because Sony does have a compensation for video, where if it will talk to your lens and be like, okay, how much cropping do you need, and then it just crops it out and you get zero focus breathing in your video. Now here's the deal, that only works with Sony lenses. The moment you put a Sigma here, it will not work. So they had to make it. Basically, they have to build this puppy to the same specification as a television lenses or cinema lenses. Whereas like, no, physically, optically, you have to design in such a way there is no breathing. So they did achieve that, which is one of the best in class. Because be mindful, if you just put a Sony G Master lens, it's very difficult for you to find out that it's actually doing that, because again, these things are automated. So once you disable it, it's like, it's not too bad in Sony also. Let that be fair. It's not like, oh, it's like, whoa, whoa. It's not that. It's just like, here it's like, I'm solid. So it's really good. Like especially for videographers, shut up, take money just for this. And it has same level of sharpness as G Master 2. Now be mindful, in certain scenarios you may find G Master 2 to be a bit sharper, but it will also have fringe, and it is law of physics. That's why I said the glasses always come with caveats. Yo, what if I bend more light and get more sharpness? Yeah, now you have more fringing. It's like, it's always a balancing act. So I'm reasonably sure good Sigma would have able to build a even sharper lens. Absolutely. It's just that either it would have costed too much, because again, they might have to pay for a lot of glass elements, or it may have compromised basically stigma, basically purple fringing that you are seeing. So there's always a trade-off here. It's really good. Like, you will not be like, oh, only a photographer that is seeing side by side in a very high quality prints or very print, good luck with that, or a very like pixel peeping, you will not find issue. It's like, it's good, and really good autofocus speed. Let that be very clear. Speed of autofocus is really good. The burst is not that good. Now, why burst is not that good? Well, I think it's because, again, this is pre-production. As of now, it's not mass production, and I do expect 1 or 2 firmware additions to happen. Then it will be like, I'm good. Or it could be like Sony may not be able to, that's why I said like it would require some firmware love to actually let us swing out, because the autofocus speed is good. Like, autofocus speed is, that's not an issue. It's just the burst is like, it's not going right. So I do expect it to become exponentially better once at least 1 or 2 first firmware patches happens. Then it will be really, really good. But right now it's not like, oh, it's completely used, right? It's like hit rate is a bit low. So this is the performance side of things. Really good, does have enough buttons, does have enough bells and whistles to keep you happy, including the aperturing, clicking and declicking, and the fact that somebody designed it to, hey, just rotate it to A to make it automatic and lock it there. Smart, clever, useful. So performance is good. Now, however, let that be very clear, there are certain limitations. This puppy is heavy. Now, heavy simply means it's not only heavy compared to Sony, it's also heavy compared to Tamron. So if you're like, hey, I'm limited by cost and I like G Master 2, but I can't afford it, again, you can jump into Tamron. Tamron is 800 grams, yani 0.8 kilograms. So it's light. G Master 2 is just a little bit heavier, that is 1.045 kilograms. So it's almost just 300 grams more. Now, this puppy is 1.3 kilograms. Yeah, this is heavy. Now you're like, hey, wait a minute. The gap wise is not that huge, but you have to understand. You're talking about, like, let's say a photographer, wedding photographer. He could be hanging this puppy on their neck for hours. At that point in time, that 100-gram extra weight would be painful, let alone 300 gram. So you do understand. That's why people pay for this lens, even though it's exponentially expensive. People will pay for it. It's just like, hey, it's lighter and it has higher quality optics. Shut up, take money, simply because of that fact. Now, Tamron does have lower zoom. It goes, if I'm not mistaken, 70 to 180. It's like, So Tamron does have some compromise to achieve that lightweight. So G Master 2 is genuinely one of the best compared to all other first-party lenses, meaning from Nikon and RF mount. RF mount was genuinely compromised because they wanted that collapsing tube design. That has compromise. So that's why the optical quality is not like whoa. Heck, you will get better from red ring from Canon of DSLR era. It's like, that's why again engineering has to be it's about compromise. You have to know what are you compromising. So the lens is good, but weight is something that you have to be mentally ready for, so otherwise you will get fatigued very quickly. Now it has very fast autofocus, but Sony will limit it to 15 fps. Now 15 fps does not mean 15 all the time. 15 fps means 15 if the camera is trying to physically lock autofocus, meaning if you have A1 or the upcoming A9 Mark III, those puppies have very fast autofocus while taking burst. At that point in time, this lens will be the bottleneck. The moment you put this lens, the computer will detect it and slow it down to 15 fps. Now Sony's reason for that is like back in the days the lenses were very horrible and third-party lenses were not that good, so they used to crash and cause issue and people used to blame us, so we created this limited. However, that again is justifiable or not justifiable, I'll leave that up to you. But given the fact that I live in a world where Canon has a system where it's like no for RF mount, I'm like I'll live with 15 fps. I'm like me good with 15 fps. So that's the whole point. Be very mindful. So even though this lens in terms of looking at an area, it should be able to do competent sports photography, especially in indoor stadiums and all that jazz. Do not expect the lens to keep up simply because the autofocus would be limited. If you have high-end body, if you have medium-end body or low-end body, that's not an issue. It's just high-end, you will be like the camera would be throttled because of the lens. So that's the issue there. Now it will not work with Sony teleconverter because it's not that it physically does not fit, it electronically disables it. So that's no, that's just like no sir, not a good idea. That part I'm like come on Sony, come on. That part I was like come on. So that was an issue. However, removing all those limitations, given the fact those limitations only become prevalent if you are in some niche scenarios, like if you are like, hey, I am a sports photographer, I need the fastest lens, there's a very good chance you're not looking for third-party lenses. You know this and you're just like, hey, I'm gonna bite the bullet and get first party. Or if you're buying something as expensive as A9 Mark III, yeah, this would be free comparatively speaking. Be mindful, sport lenses starts to touch $10,000. So yes, this will be free lens. This would be like, hey, I just put one lens extra in my pocket kind of lens. This is cheap. So what about these things? These are very good lens. Most of the time, for most people, for especially from a low end to medium end body, this will be more than good enough and you're gonna have a good time with it. Just do not expect it to carry this puppy for a very long time because yeah, your body will hate you. So there are certain limitations. So be mindful of it. Given the fact of the cost, given the fact of other things around it, I would say this is a good lens, and I'm happy with the fact that they somehow managed to remove, all focus breathing, which I'm damn sure that's the reason why this puppy is inverted. I'm pretty sure some engineer was like, hey, I can put it here, but it will compensate with the barrel has to go through some other barrel that will create an issue. You should ever look into tear down of lens barrels. It's like, what the heck is this? So it's a very good system, but with some limitation. Now, if you can just fork with the cost, go with this puppy and just like forget about it. But other than that, for most people, this is good enough. And it's also reasonably weather shield, except who the heck came up with this, screw idea. It's like, why? We crossed 1970 long ago. We crossed it. Like you have such a clever design with tripod foot, Swiss mount directly, shut up, take money, go home. And then they're like, what if we had a screw here? Who came up with that? So there are some limitations here, so be mindful. So this was my presentation on Sigma's 70-200 F2.8. Hopefully you have liked it, learned from it. In that case, please click the like button, share it amongst your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike. Press it twice to show me extra disappointment. Please leave a comment because I do try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free, and as always, thanks for watching.